God chose Israel, but America chose God. Moses, left and built upon Egypt's legacy. Yeshua left and fulfilled Mosaic law. Degamorida brought Turtle Island peace through heaven's law, and with Hiawatha founded the Five-Nation Confederacy, setting the stage for the states. The free tribes rejected and left the Aztec Mexica death cult, preparing the way for the pilgrims, coming from corrupted covenant Britain, saved from certain starvation by Tisquantum, who was rescued from kidnapped slavery by Franciscans, so he could greet the pilgrim remnant in English as a fellow Christian. It didn't end on Independence Day. It began in interdependence on God and each other. America is an ancient Mideast word meaning perfect star land. Wampanoag, the pilgrims' greeters, means dawn's early light people. So all of their sacrifice and suffering has led us to this moment now, because the opposite of oppression is mercy. I'm a retired SOCOM soldier, former DEA special agent, targeted by the deep state, turned whistleblower warrior, served and sabotaged, rejected and redeemed, failed and forgiven, rejecting revenge, humbled and blessed, repurposed in redemption, as chaplain, leader, teacher, and truth teller, now America's intelligence officer, following God, leading my family, and any that choose to join on our long walk to faith and freedom. Welcome. I'm Jeff Prather, and this is the Prather Point. Hey, welcome everybody. Happy to be with you. See High Crop Man on Rumble Rants, and I see Marco 5x5 on X. So lots to cover today, but before I get to that, I'm just coming off of our chaplains reunion. So if you don't know, I'm a chaplain. In fact, right up there, you can see one of my chaplain certifications in partial Hebrew. And the chaplaincy is at christchaplaincy.com, christchaplaincy.com. We have two services every Sunday since 2009. We're a 501c3. If you like the Prather Point podcast, then you'll like the Christ Chaplaincy. It's quite different. It's about kinetic prayer. It's about actively listening and using Aramaic scripture, because the Torah, the Old Testament, was originally written in Aramaic, and Yeshua spoke Aramaic. And it's very experiential and quite different than going to mass, church, or service or synagogue. So what we do, the chaplains work so hard, and the difference between a chaplaincy and a church is you go to church, the chaplaincy comes to you. Chaplains deploy with soldiers, with police, into hospitals. And so we deploy out via online services since 2009. And it's real hard work. We also do a lot of work with individuals, with patients, and then we also mentor and disciple others. Not just the easy talking about the gospel, the Great Commission, where you talk about it and you don't really live it, which is what most people do. Prayer warriors who talk about being warriors while they're just praying, but we do actual exorcisms, actual soul retrievals, and a lot of detailed work with people, kind of like the work you see in Chosen with the disciples, when you see like Peter have to, or Matthew have to confess and apologize to his family, and then Peter has to confess and forgive. A lot of that in detail, not what happens in church, not what happens privately in confession or in group confession in synagogue. So it's real hard work, very exhausting. The chaplains are highly experienced, highly trained, have been with me for years, been through the ringer with me, been targeted. So every once in a while we get together, and we had a weekend. We got our families together, really to get our kids together, so our kids can be around other godly children, and they've been growing up together, and they really love each other and play with each other. So it's not like it was all Bible school camp or something. It was very little of that. It was them enjoying each other, them talking about their future together, And for the ladies then especially as well, because they work so hard, and they still had to work because we had a lake house, but they still had to do the cooking. So just coming off of that, getting back from that today. So that was really very nice and wonderful. And I encourage you to be around God family, and of course your blood family, but oftentimes, blood family is not really close, and God family is closer. Most people do not acknowledge that. They do not understand that. They don't follow that, and they're not close with blood family, and then they don't develop God family, and so they're isolated and alone. It's not what you're supposed to do. But if you want to see more of that, you go to christchaplaincy.com, christchaplaincy.com. You can also go to Facebook Meta, and you can see our sermons on there. You can also on christchaplaincy.com. They're all recorded. On Facebook, they're all recorded. During the service, you can be live with us at GoToMeeting and talk with us, because we want to have a two-way conversation, as Yeshua did with the disciples. It's the way it's supposed to be. So if you like, side crop, it's excellent fellowship. Yeah, it's fellowship, but it's way beyond fellowship. It's about actually doing the work, the protocols that Yeshua required. So again, everybody likes the Great Commission, which is go and spread the gospel, evangelize, but not live it, not follow the Christic protocols, which is very difficult, and not also do the Warrior Commission, which is heal and exorcise demons, which is a lot tougher. So it's way, way beyond just fellowship. But there is fellowship as well. But anyway, we're just back from that. In fact, one of the families is still here, and my kids are enjoying them, and then there'll be tears when they're leaving. So we just did that. And of course, I did have a guest today. I had Basil Baz, a former CIA and child rescuer, coming on. His dad's in the hospital. So we're praying for him. So he had to cancel. But plenty to talk about. But before I get to that, remember, I just had Brett Miller on of Galileo.com, sat text, but also of phone123.com, phone123.com, where you can get the connector phone, which is $35 a month, and it's a secure phone as well, or sat123.com, sat123.com, where you can get the low end Inmarsat or the high end Iridium sat phone. And for the most times, you can use the regular number for regular rates, and in emergencies, you'd use the sat phone. And I'm bringing that up now because I'm going to again talk about what I think may be coming. And why comms are going to go out again, and that is bracing for Congress's July 4th bioterror attack. And my hope is, and we've done this before, I think we've done this successfully, but you never really know what you've prevented in intelligence, is if we really out them heavily, then they won't do it, or it will fail anyway. So I think we've done that a couple of times, you and I together as a team. And so that's really the purpose and focus of the cast today, and also why I had Brett Miller on, and why I'm also still advocating sat phones. And yeah, they're a sponsor. So my show is free. So for all the 4 to 5 hours I put in every show away from my family, where I could be working on something else, that's a sponsorship. It's a very valid sponsorship. I have the product, and I recommend it. They're real good people. I know them. And so, also, if you can, go ahead and support the show at jeffreyprather.locals.com for $9 a month, $90. But I got to say, it's so funny because right now, because I'm criticizing Israel and criticizing Trump, and so people are quitting because they're Church of Trump and they're American Christian Zionists, and they don't really know Scripture, and they like babbling and everything. But I get these things all the time. Is I want to cancel the Prather Report. I'm like, okay, I don't know what you have, because they either call me or they text me or they write me or they email me and say, cancel me, and I'm like, I didn't sign you up. I can't cancel you. So I have to figure out what they're on. So, well, I'm getting charged $9 a month. Oh, well, okay, that's local. So then, okay, here's a URL for you to cancel. but it's just always amazing me how helpless everybody is and how everyone expects everything to be done for them. But I have to say, I didn't sign you up. I can't cancel you. I'm not in your bank account. I don't have your stuff. So, if you don't like what I'm saying and you don't like the truth, by all means, cancel. Good luck. God bless. Thanks for supporting as long as you did. You might think about taking more responsibility for your own self as opposed to having everything done for you, because it's going to get worse in the end. But I'll help you depart, and I'll say God bless, on the way out. But I just got this email and this call where these people expect everything to be done for them. So easy is over. Make it, hunt it, grow it, or find it. Easy is ending. And it may be happening this Friday. And so that's what this cast is primarily about, is brace, brace, brace for Congress's July 4th bioterror attack. And if we spread the word, maybe they will cancel and maybe it won't work. And will Trump and the masked morons stampede off the cliff again, like a buffalo run in the old days when they didn't have horses? They'd set up stone cairns and they'd run the buffalo off a cliff. There's buffalo runs. There's piles of bones where that happened. It was in the Alpha movie, which was a real good movie a while back about in Europe. Different kind of bison than in Europe than the American bison buffalo. But will Trump and the masked morons cliff stampede themselves yet again? Well, we'll see. Trump seems to be falling for a lot of the same stuff again and letting the deep state get away with stuff, even though they tried to kill him. Doesn't seem to get that. Still seems to be obsessively trusting of these institutions, which are not constitutional. And will the masked morons stampede again? Well, the ones that got multiple jabs and the ones that are still alive, because remember, Luc Montagnier, the Nobel Prize laureate, said everybody who took the jabs will be dead in a decade. And we've seen that. We've seen lots of newscasters falling dead on live news. We've seen lots of football players, soccer players, falling dead. Young guys in super health because of all the clots. So will we see that happen again? Well, and of course I always commit, and no, we won't see that as much again. Why? Because a lot of them are dead, and then a lot of them are awake. But there are, a substantial number of Rube Goldbergs. There's a sucker born every minute. Masked morons who are going to take how many ever jabs until they poison themselves to death, just like an alcoholic drinking themselves to death, or just like a fat person eating sugar, because sugar is more poisonous and more addicting than cocaine. But will this be a mass stampede like it was for the pandemic? No, it will not. There's my prediction. Always making my predictions there online. So where does this all come from? Well, this comes from a bipartisan commission on biodefense that was declared in 2024. They actually declared this as going to be happening. And they were saying it would be a genetically modified Nipah virus. So the virus is varying, but the script is the same. They're pulling out the same script, just like they had event scenario 201, which preceded COVID coming out. And this genetically modified Nipah virus is supposed to, in their scenario script, kill 280,000 people in America on the first day, plus livestock. So let me tell you right now, that won't happen. As the angels in Yeshua say all the time, fear not. But the fear porn will do twice that, because remember, COVID was the flu. It was genetically modified. Furin cleavage proves it was modified, but it was basically the flu. And you got real sick with the flu. And of course, people get sicker today because they take antibiotics as opposed to get sick and build up their immune systems. They take antibiotics and decrease their immune systems. And of course, then the spike protein destroys your immune systems, creates turbo cancer. All of that's all known now. That's coming out in the medical journals, even though it was covered up at the time. But again, the COVID was basically just the flu. It was the bioweapon jab that was the weapon, but the real effect was the psyop. And the mask was the identifier of how well the PSYOP worked. So if you go back to the first Gulf War again, PSYOP, which is in Special Operations Command, which is where I started, dropped leaflets to the Iraqis and said, hey, we don't want to kill you. If you come out with your weapon over your head, we'll feed you, we'll send you home. You can surrender with honor. If you don't, we're going to bury you with our tanks and our bulldozers in the sand. And what happened is tens of thousands of Iraqis came out with their hands over their head. And so saved a lot of lives on both sides, saved our soldiers, saved their soldiers. So that's why PSYOP is a force multiplier. And it is prepping the battlefield usually almost always before the battle. Although sometimes during the battle, if you've seen Saving Private Ryan, they're shooting at each other and the Nazis are broadcasting PSYOP going, the Statue of Liberty is kaput, and Tom Hanks, the weirdo Todd Blaster, is like, oh, that's disconcerting. The guy with the gloves, the guy who was in prison, guy who changed his citizenship to Greece because there's no extradition policy. He and his wife, who always play a good guy, but not really a good guy. Remember when he was supposedly broadcasting from their laundry room with the little narrow windows, which was really some kind of prison that got covered up. Anyway, it was a PSYOP. So the fact that everybody wore these masks, and it just killed me to see this, and soldiers were wearing these masks, and like the army band would have the mask on, and then they pull the mask down to play their bugle or whatever, or cut a slit in it, or you're in the restaurant and you eat to take it down. Just the stupidity, the sheer herd mentality of going off the cliff was just stunning. And I used to ride a lot, and I'd see people out walking out in the Saguaro National Forest, which is Saguaro, with masks on, and I would just laugh. Or they'd be in their car alone, masked morons, and I'd always point, "Hey kids, look, more masked moron." So will that happen again? Well, to some of them, but those guys are going to die off. The herd is being called. Don't be in the call. Marco asked, will RFK be complacent with this? As much as he is able to not be, he will not be. But again, he has to navigate his political place in the Trump administration. So one thing is, in the Trump administration, the first thing you always praise Trump. Then you get to the point, but you got to, if you watch all his staff, first they're saying, Trump's so great, Trump's so great. And then here's what we did. That's required in there because of ego as well. But, RFK is recommending wearables. He's recommending, Wi-Fi wearables of different types. And of course, the irradiation of that is certainly worse than the benefits of that. So he doesn't seem to have deep dived enough on that at all. But, we will continue to see. You can also go support the show at patreon.com/Jeffrey Prather at the $5 a month level. You get created news stories. $15, you get deep dive resources. $25, daily training videos. You can jump into one of my online HMAC classes if you got to get some hurdles done. Sign up and stuff. But there are Point Patriots who are doing that now, and they're loving the classes, and you're training with my senior guys that have been around for a long time. Anyway, the virus varies, but the script is the same. It's the event scenario 201 that preceded COVID, genetically modified Nipah virus. And the whole thing is it's not meant to kill 280,000 people. It's meant to scare fear porn twice that much, which is what they did the first time. And that split families. One of my chaplains was just telling me how he was coming to see his family, and because he wasn't jabbed, they said, well, don't come. Unbelievable. How people trust the state, and trust doctors rather than their own family. So Dr. Putman is asking, is RFK doing a nod and a wink to the wearables? I don't know. That he may be, because he's got these lieutenant colonel oligarchs in there. It's very hard to see how he has to maneuver for his position. He seems to me to be very, very successful at his maneuvering, the most successful of anybody in the Trump administration by far. Remember, my last show where I talked about Bondi's election fraud DOJ specialist, some old lady who's a nothing, has said, we're not going to do election fraud cases because we don't have a data guy. Which is typical of a government worker who's been in place for decades, no imagination, no motivation. Stick around long enough, you get automatic promotions, and that's just a great out for them to not have to do anything. And again, I'm waiting for Bondi to fire Riordan, is the old lady's name. And if Bondi doesn't fire Riordan, then Trump should fire Bondi. If Trump does not fire Bondi, then it's all a charade. Because if the AG is compromised, if he's evil, or if he's compromised, or if he's neutered, or in this case, spayed, Bondi's a lady, then anything goes. And you have got to have accountability, not revenge. Revenge is the Lord. I say that at the beginning of every show, rejecting revenge. But you've got to have accountability, because the deep state spent the Pedo Joe years persecuting Christians, veterans, J6ers, PTA moms, Trump. They tried to kill Trump. If you don't do something about that, then they're going to do it again. That is actually protecting life. That's how, as a soldier, if you want to know how I can be a Christian and a soldier, is sometimes you have to take life to protect life, which is soldiering or policing, or to provide life, which is hunting as well. And that's scriptural right there, because right there in Genesis, when after Adam and Eve sin, and they start wearing camo leaves, just saying, first uniform is first clothes are camo. Then God provides them with buckskins, which are really Indian clothes. So how do you get the buckskins? Well, obviously he killed a creature to get the skins. So there is a scriptural tradition from Genesis right there for hunting, very, very clearly. And I'm just saying, as a former soldier, first clothes are cami and second clothes are buckskin. I got my Indian buckskins as well. So, I think I'm doing pretty good, in that regard. But it is interesting that when they took the Indian kids away from their families, just like public schools are trying to take our kids away from us, the first thing they did was cut their hair. And what they do, got rid of their beautiful buckskins, even though that was scriptural clothing. So again, they weren't really teaching Christology to follow the Christ. They were teaching, Christianity, their version of it. So anyway, I'm going to jump into that. And then I'll get to the Tranny-ed Idaho shooter who likes My Pony, who was originally from Arizona, just like the Christian pastor Crucifer, also from Arizona, just like Ray Epps from Arizona. And I was in Arizona for a long time. I was just telling my Arizona students the other day, you don't know it because you're in it, but you're living in a very culturally and spiritually poisoned and evil environment. So a lot of frackery and evil coming out of Arizona. But then the Idaho sheriff is former Fusion Center in LA, Sheriff's Department. And then in between that, he went and got trained by Mossad and Shin Bet in Israel. So nothing, no pattern, anything happening there. Not to worry there. Is there that many people still unable to see the truth? Says Dr. Putman. Yes, certainly. Most people still do not see the truth. Most people are going to still say SEALs are great, and the CIA is doing good stuff, and the FBI is there to protect us. Because they're watching the TV images of they've never met SEALs, CIA, or FBI, like I have, and they have no idea. Their idea there was a guy criticizing me years ago, one of the trolls that the government had to come after me, and he was criticizing my Indian heritage and how how there's a lot of Indian culture talked about an initiation there. My book, My Journey with Apache Medicine Man, and he was going, Indian culture was terrible and dirty and crappy. I was like, and I don't argue with people like that because then I'm reacting. But obviously, he got his idea of what Indians were from cowboy movies, and of course, the victors always write the history, and in the cowboy movies, the Indians always bad. But who broke all the treaties every time? It was the cowboy. If you look at history, they continually broke all the Westerners, continually broke all the treaties over and over and over again. Same thing with the samurai and ninja. And how many movies do you really see portraying in depth Indian culture? I mean, Dances with Wolves, was one of the few. They even met buckskin teepees, and they spoke Lakota. But they still even kind of gave a biased, it was all wonderful and positive life. Last of the Mohicans did a pretty good show showing both sides of Eastern Indians, of Huron, Mohican. They didn't really mention the Confederacy. The Iroquois Confederacy breaks apart when the Oneida, because they would never fight each other, but the Oneida sided with America, with Washington. Chief Shenandoah of the Oneida delivered venison and corn to Washington at Valley Forge, saving them. Then later on, Washington betrayed Shenandoah again. And eventually, what did the Indians do? They're like, we've helped these guys, we've saved these guys, we've done treaties with these guys over and over. Then they became implacable enemies. But do people believe all that? Yes, because they are acculturated very purposefully by fake news and fake movies and fake TV shows. We were just talking this weekend about, because one of my chaplains, one of my chaplains is a former Marine, and one of my chaplain's husbands is a former Army, talking about the Lioness show, with how bad that was, and everybody was raving about it because the guns were accurate and the tactics were accurate, but it was just crap. But anyway, I'm happy to interact with you guys today. I see Doc Putman. Yeah, you're Navy vet, 22 years, real cool. My dad was Navy. Everybody lies in their war stories, but the stolen valor that went through with Chapman, and we've been over that many times, that the SEALs are doing, they're just totally out of control. Want to read about that? It's Code Over Countries, the book Code Over Country, if you want to see how bad they were. I mean, they even got some young SEAL officer to sleep with some Thai lady boy, and then he shot himself. But anyway, let me jump in here to that. You're not a doctor, you're a DRP. Okay, a drip. I don't know what that is, but okay, gotcha. So there was a federal report that simulates a July 4th, 2025 bioterror attack. I covered this when it happened. This was back in April of 2024. It was the Bipartisan Commission on Biodefense, and it released the National Blueprint for Biodefense, which is on my patreon.com at the $15 level. You can go find it. Immediate action needed to defend against a biological threat. A little known but deeply alarming federally commissioned report outlined a simulated bio attack July 4th, 2025, this Friday, using a genetically engineered Nipah virus that kills 280,000 Americans in a single day and devastates livestock. So what's that? That's siege warfare, taking away all the food. That's basically siege warfare. The virus in this scenario is modified for high transmissibility and retains a fatality rate exceeding 40%. Folks, that 40% rate is just incredibly high. And so it says, like Event 201, just before COVID-19, the simulation appears to represent strategic planning informed by foreknowledge of an impending crisis, laying the policy and infrastructure groundwork for future emergency powers by the government, AI-driven surveillance, and accelerated vaccine deployment. The report explicitly calls for centralizing National Biodefense Authority under the National Security Council, establishing a permanent another more bureaucracy, which is what happened after 9/11 and what happened after COVID. So it's another it's another false flag that is coming. And this one is very explicit because the following hypothetical opening remarks by the chair of Congress of a Congress inquiry provide context for this report by portraying a biological attack causing the catastrophic consequences warned of by the Bipartisan Committee for Biodefense. The scenario describes how a biological agent could target people and animals, which is not true. It's got to be modified to do that. And how disease could emerge, some of the key interagency required to address the agent and its impacts, the agent being the bioagent. And so this is from the report, Joint Inquiry into Administration and Congressional Accountability Before and During Bioterrorist Attack of July 4th, 2025. This is what is simulated. So a while back, I had some guy, so I have a guy do my reels to promote my stuff. And one of the reels, I guess, might have said, 9/11 was authentic, where that was part of an intro where I was saying the scripted think 9/11 was authentic, the unscripted realized 9/11 was pre-planned. Or they don't listen. People don't listen. They just hear. They don't see. They just look. But anyway, the U.S. House of Representatives Permanent Select Committee Intelligence and U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence chair. So I'm now actually reading directly from their script last year in April 2025 that they read into the official congressional record. I call this first hearing of joint inquiry to order 9 weeks, whether some nation or terrorist group. What nation could it be? Well, right now, flavor of the month is Iran. Before that, it would have been Russia. Could be China. Flavor of the month. And terrorist group, that could be PLO. That could be ISIS again. Again, flavor of the month. We still do not know who. And of course, they're not going to know who because they don't want you to rally like you were able to rally after 9/11 around the fall of the Twin Towers. That's why they removed the Twin Towers from the Eagle's wings on the TSA patches. We still don't know who attacked the nation and other U.S. cities with biological weapons as we celebrated Independence Day. The infectious agent they used killed at least 280,000 Americans and at least 400,000 throughout the country in a single day. And 800,000 sickened animals. These numbers will increase and spread. Many of our colleagues and staff here in Congress are affected. Coordinated attacks in allied nations in the following days. So this is a global cabal thing because it's allied nation attacks. It's a very powerful terrorist group. We are now hearing that the terrorists conducted smaller scale attacks in cities and localities prior to the July 4th incidents. Oh, prior to the July 4th incidents. What have we just had prior to the July 4th incidents? We have had the Idaho shooter targeting the fireman, the tranny, My Pony boy, who was from Arizona and is probably SSRI'd and AI'd by the FBI, just like Ramos and Uvalde and the rest of them as well. And we've just had, also from Arizona, the Christian pastor Crucifer. So now those aren't biological attacks, but they are terrorist attacks. But all of them, whether they're biological or they're crucifying or whatever, are designed to spread terror and fear. That's what makes them terror attacks. People were saying when they were loosening the bolts on the cell phone towers that was a terror attack. No, it was not. Why? Because nobody saw them do it. It did not spread terror. It was an act of sabotage, but it's not an act of terror. With the planes flying into the building, it was not to kill the people in the planes. It was not to kill the people in the buildings. It was to terrorize the millions watching the people in the planes and the buildings die. That's what makes it terror, to terrorize, to oppress through fear. which again is the seduction of evil. So anyway, we are now hearing these terrorists are conducting smaller scale attacks in cities and localities prior to. And well, actually, they don't say that it's bio. So it actually could fit the crucifixion and the Idaho shooter leading up this week. They actually read the script out, and I see the script being acted out. This is how I became a whistleblower. That was about, gun dealers supplying the cartels with guns, which wasn't true. So they had to make a script to follow that. These smaller scale attacks were largely unnoticed. Laboratory tests confirmed the Nipah virus caused the disease, but how our adversaries did it, we are not exactly sure. So they literally, in this instance, literally read the script into the congressional record. I do not know how more obvious you can be. And so that's why I'm not talking about P. Diddy. I'm not talking about Elon and Trump yelling at each other and whatever else you're seeing on Newsmax and Fox and CNN and all that bullshit. And I'm not even starting out talking about the crucifixion. I did last week, or even the Idaho shooter, because that you've got to look not where they want you to look, but where you should not look and see what's going on. And so that's why I am emphasizing this. Best yet to come, starting ocean firemen is new low. It's not new. It's been going on in Mexico for a long time. They've even rigged bodies in Mexico as well. This is also part of the cartel war that I've talked about as well. Daniel R. Putman, I got it. That's been going on a long time. I said that we were going to see cartel violence and it would be disguised as crime as well. Best yet to come, the Idaho event reminds me of the Vegas massacre. You can't tell me a 20-year-old set all that up. Just feels too much like a setup. Well, the Vegas massacre he wasn't 20. He was an older guy with a Philippine girlfriend, but there was not a single shooter there at all. And they were shooting, and I've actually shown you that there were multiple shooters and that they were shooting from different floors as well. And of course, you never hear the FBI never comes down and says, okay, we've solved the crime. Let me walk you through what happened. You never hear that. You never hear that with Crooks at Butler. You don't hear that with Ruthie. Even though Crooks had wiped his social media, Ruthie, Iranian, colored hair moron, hanging out getting his photo taken with all the Democrats, being in Ukraine, somehow flying around. You never hear any of that because the FBI is the cleanup team. And yet, and everybody's saying this now. I was saying it a long time, but everybody's saying it now. But then they go, so we should get the FBI to investigate. I just go again. Still don't get it because they have this institutional bias that somehow the FBI is going to come clean and investigate itself. So it's just never going to happen. The FBI is the cleanup team in covert operations. In the old days of covert operations, in my day in the covert operations, there's the recon team, and then there's the hit team if it's a wet work thing. You can see this in the movie Munich. And then there's a record team. Now the record team is part of the hit team because they have camera mounted on their helmets. And then there was a cleanup team that came in and picked up the brass or anything or any signs. You saw that a lot with Antifa, guys coming in, fake medics, blocking off, cars blocking off, picking up the rounds, all that stuff. In Munich, you see that he's picking up the shell casings as well. So that's what the FBI does now. And because they've done it so much, they are corrupted. So then to turn around again, if you're, Senator Grassley and say, now we've got to have the FBI investigate this, or we're going to have another congressional investigation with another fake congressional report. It's not going to work. The answer would be, again, that Trump could go to some of the hard-ass states attorney generals like Ken Paxton, maybe the Missouri, maybe the Oklahoma, and also draw from the attorney general's special agents pool, task force deputize them, because all state attorney generals also have their own special agents, bring them in, because their loyalty is to their state, just like it was supposed to be in the old days, and have them investigate the FBI. The U.S. Marshals could also investigate the FBI, because the U.S. Marshals is the first federal branch ever, but they just don't have the drive to do it. They just do their fugitive stuff, and they're not real sophisticated, and but they could. But the real thing would be to cut the FBI back to almost nothing, or to get rid of it, as I advocate, and to cut or get rid of the CIA. But they're funding them more. They're giving them 2 headquarters, and so expecting a different result. Remember when Peter Marks was ousted from the FDA, he issued a veiled threat to America about man-made biological agents, and saying, "I'm leaving behind a group that now gutted that was ready to respond to natural and man-made threats. At any given time, many threats could come forward, like Ebola or anthrax." Of course, where'd the anthrax come out from? Fort Detrick. It all came after 9/11, the anthrax that was found, and supposedly there was anthrax found at Flight 93 on the ground, along with the non-burned passports, just like at the towers. That anthrax was traced back from Fort Detrick, and Fort Detrick had sent out live anthrax to all these different labs, including labs that didn't even want it as well, saying it was a mistake. Hundreds of mistakes, and then people buy that, and they keep funding them because they've been extorted, because they've been seduced by some boy clerk or page or girl, and they are just stupid. So could the U.S. Marshals take over? The U.S. Marshals could take over, but they're real small. They're down about 50 to 60%. They're not very sophisticated like the FBI. But the difference with these U.S. Marshals and the FBI is they can investigate all federal law. Whereas, like, I was a DEA special agent, all I could do was 21 U.S.C. 841A1, 21 U.S. Code 841A1, which is possession, intent to distribute. That's it. That's all. So when I saw illegals, when I lived in the country and I saw illegals, heading north, I could not arrest them. I could show them my badge and say, "Stay here till Border Patrol," and I could call Border Patrol. Just like Border Patrol in my day did not have 21 USC authority. So every time they got a load of dope, they had to call us. And so I did hundreds, maybe thousands of referral calls. And the big deal with that was we get the stats. DEA gets the stats. So the seizures on the border, which are really Border Patrol seizures, and I think that's changed now, and Border Patrol should get the credit for them, went to DEA because it's all about stats. Because every year they could show all these seizures in Nogales, where I worked, with 5 agents, where in Tucson they had 50 agents and they didn't have that many seizures. But you could use those stats to get more money, because it's about getting more money and getting more power, because if it was really about doing the job, you take those 50 Tucson agents and put them on the border, and you put 5 agents in Tucson. But no, there's 5 agents. There was 5 agents, 5 of us, and sometimes there was 4 in Nogales, and then there's like 50 in Tucson, and then up in Phoenix, the big city, there's like 150, and they always thought of themselves as cool and neat. But I was amazed, because when I came out of Nogales after 10 years, it would take like 3 or 4 guys to do one load and process a couple of prisoners, where we in Nogales, we did that all the time by ourselves, but they thought they were cool. So A retired marshal that hated the FBI. Well, he is in plenty of good company there as well. But so there are thousands of BSL, which is biolabs, BSL level 3 and 4, which is the highest level, that are supposed to prevent disease. But actually, they're manufacturing bioagents and they're containing them, and they have all these leaks all the time. So they are creating all of these things for release. And these BSL-4 lab that we know of, they're in Hamilton, Montana, San Antonio, Texas, Galveston, Texas, 2 of them, Atlanta, 2 of them, Georgia, 3 of them, Atlanta, Georgia, Richmond, Virginia, Bethesda, Maryland, Fort Detrick, Maryland, of course, 2 of them there, or 3 of them, 4 of them there, Boston University. And those are just the ones that are revealed. There are more that are not revealed as well. So I'm hoping by focusing on this, as opposed to Elon and Musk and whatever else, that I am outing this, and I'm going to encourage you to out this and share and subscribe to this show and get it out there, because if they are found out enough, then maybe it won't happen. Maybe they will, let go of trying to do this. But how successful will this be? Even if they run it, it will not be as successful as it was. First of all, they've killed off a lot of the gullible of the herd. They're already dead. Another part of the gullible herd are very sick. A lot of the other ones aren't going to go through this again, because of a lot of us putting this out, like me. So they won't have, just like the second Gulf War, they tried to do the same thing. They thought everybody'd surrender again, but everybody always fights the next war like the last war, and that didn't work at all. So it won't work here. And then the other thing I really want to say too is they're not going to kill 280,000 people. They may say that, but that's not going to happen. So I've had on Sasha Latipova, former Ukrainian, now American, great artist, former pharma executive, now big whistleblower, real smart, talented lady, who says the whole thing with these high fatality, like a 40% fatality rate that happens in one day, can't spread. So the scenario is false. The scenario is a lie. Why? Because if everybody's dropping dead that fast, they drop dead before it can spread very far. So it's a self-fulfilling thing. If the incubation period is 280,000 in a day, then it can't spread, because they're going to kill off the host too quickly. Because very quickly you're going to see big areas. Now that will be made more mobile by airports. So they would hit airports and stuff, and people jumping on planes to spread. But again, if it's that 40% fatality, 280,000, it's just not going to work. And I thought about trying to get Sasha here at the last minute again, but I think I think I can say it at this point as well, as she can, that's not going to happen. By the way, go to get jeffreyprather.com/Jace and get your prescription medicines so that you're not running out of them as well. They're always running specials. I've had the CEO, a doctor, on the show. That's another option answer solution to that. jeffreyprather.com/Jace, Jesse, very important. Oh my God, Dr. Putman is just talking all day to not Dr. Dr. Putman is. So are we so corrupt that we can't fix? I know Jesus has to be a part of the fixing. Well, that is right. Yes, I was teaching one of my students this weekend. He was like, I'm so upset with, how bad the world is and how bad we've treated our environment. I'm like, oh, so you're a human secularist hippie. you probably shouldn't be studying with me. Are we so corrupt that we can't be fixed? Yes, we are so corrupted that we cannot fix. Now you add, I know Jesus has to be a part of our fixing. No, Jesus, Yeshua, is the part of our fixing, not a part. Is, and if you don't believe that, then you're not really following Yeshua. You're doing something else. I don't know what you're doing, but you're probably some kind of human secularist or something like that. You can also go to mehanmd.com, and put in JP Health for a 10% discount. That's my doc. Dr. Meehan's passed on, but Dr. Terry is replaced him. Good Colonel. That's very alternative medicine that they work with you, concierge, well, not concierge, personal doctors as well. So again, I'm trying to give you answers, options, and solutions. But just like with COVID, what did they do? So they went over to some countries and they either had people act like in China, or they actually poisoned them. And at the very beginning of it, you saw people falling over, right? Do you all remember when people were falling over? Everybody got that much memory? They were just dropping over. We saw that at the very beginning. And that was not the foreign cleavage COVID. That was individuals being poisoned. And Dr. Giordino talks about this at, it looks like he's either at the FBI Academy or at the farm. The classrooms are very similar. I've been students and teaching at both of those, where he's talking about that. This is how you do it. And then you say, and it's this epidemic. And so you get a couple people to fall over, then say it's an epidemic, and spread the fear porn, spread the panic, get the psyop going, and then say, we got to wear masks. Masks are the answer, when masks were never, and we got to shut down schools, even though kids didn't really get it and they didn't need to mask at all. It was all, part of the entire psyop. So that's what this will be, is they will say all these people are dying, but all these people won't be dying, because it's not really about the numbers then. It's about taking control. It's about so that they can have more tyranny over us. It's about so they can get more jabs going, because Big Pharma, Big Pharma Kia is reeling from this. They're failing. They've invested in. They're still cranking out COVID vaccines because they're addicted. They're obsessed with the money from it, and the hospitals are as well. But will it work? No, not like it did. Will they try it? Well, sure. Countries do stupid stuff all the time. Germany got devastated in one world war and then said, no, we can do it again. Japan thought, as an island, it was a good idea to attack the United States, and they could beat them because the Japanese were superior. So do they do stupid stuff? They do stupid stuff because they are addicted to their greed. But the prep, just like I read about, where they read from the script and said there'll be prior incidents. So now we're finding out that the Idaho gunman social media shows that he was a My Little Pony guy. He lights a fire, shoots 3 firefighters because he wanted to be a firefighter. And I guess his dad's saying, well, he was not tall enough to be a firefighter or something. So that's what the problem was. That's so much bullshit. There's a little tiny Green Beret that's real famous for his heroism. But he did this up in Coeur d'Alene, but he comes out of Arizona, just like Ray Epps, right out of Arizona. Just like the guy who crucified the Christian pastor and has got Yahweh tattooed on his neck and said, I was going to crucify 14 more Christian pastors. So no, and they're calling him a brony, a boy interested in My Little Pony. I'm just going to call him, and a hashtag furry. I'm just going to call him a tranny. But no emotionally healthy boy would say, "Yeah, I'm into My Little Pony." They want to say, "No, I'm into football or baseball or GI Joe or something." So obviously, this kid has been tortured by the homosexual transvestite. Well, for certainly by the transvestite. Not all homosexuals are predators, but they certainly tend to be. That's why the problem with the Catholic priest, the priesthood being dominated by homosexuals, which turn into pedophiles because there's no marriage. So it attracts that type. Not that that doesn't happen with other Christian pastors as well, and it certainly is rampant in Islam as well, but it lends itself to that as well. So, yeah, his TikTok account name is By R Us, it being by, of course. So again, I have said for a long time, there is no connection between drugs that psychiatrists and psychologists give out to mentally and emotionally unstable people. None. There is no medical evidence for that. It is just another form of pimping drugs to people, legal. And the new Pharisees are the PhDs. That's why you don't ever hear me say Dr. Prather, even though I got a couple, honorary PhDs. So, because the screenshot from the shooter's alleged TikTok account has a location in Scottsdale, Arizona. So there we are, just like Epps. So again, I'm not a super investigator. I was a senior special investigator. I'd done a lot of big cases, but it's not that hard that you could follow this stuff. The FBI could be all over this. Just one agent could figure this out if he knew what he was doing. But you're not going to hear that because they are in on it. They are in on it. So S. Doom says, per CDC, symptoms of Nipah show 4 to 14 days after infection. So if a large number were to drop dead on 7 to 4, the virus would already have to be in the population. That is true, but you're not reading what I said. You're not hearing, you're not listening to what I said. I said the script says 380,000 dead on the first day because it's genetically modified. So you got to stop hearing and listen. You got to have ears to hear and eyes to see what I'm saying because they are following a script. Okay? Marco, Captain Richard James Flaherty. The documentary about him is called The Giant Killer. Pretty good film. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly who. Yeah, as I get older, you guys are really good at filling in when I'm forgetting names. Thank you for that, Marco. That's exactly right. Really short, super short guy. Tough guy. Yeah. Special forces. Yes. Very, very true. And again, remember where I was talking about last week that there's a report that warns a woke army and dark money funded by NGOs could take Iran's war to America's streets. Iran's foreign minister condemned the U.S. for the strike in the nuclear facilities. And I'm looking, and I haven't seen what's going on right now. I haven't heard that Israel's breaking the truce yet again. Let me know if that's the case or not, if you've heard anything. But there was a Marxist NGO, Color Revolution guy, who said, hey, watch America's streets. The woke army will take the Islamic Republic of Iran's war to America's streets. So what's that mean? That means the sodomite, pedophile, transvestites, and animal sex guys are going to say they are doing it for Iran. Although if they went to Iran, they would be executed for sure. But they are actually using the Iranians as cover for what they're doing, which is no different than what the CIA and the FBI do all the time. The woke army will serve as a proxy for the government of Iran. That's not quite correct. Not as a proxy, but as a cover. And so that's really the definition of a false flag. So, like, for example, if you're if you're going over to the Middle East and you want to recruit somebody and they are Wahhabis that America's the great Satan, Israel's the little Satan, and you don't approach them and say, I'm an American intelligence officer. You'd say, I'm an Australian intelligence officer, or I'm a Canadian intelligence officer, because I'm not going to ask you to work with the great Satan. I'm going to actually tell you how bad the great Satan Americans are, or that I hate them too. You should come and work with me because I'm working against them as well. That's a classic false flag approach operation. So their mayhem will be led with 1,500 socialist and Islamist sympathizer groups. They're not really Islamist sympathizer groups, and Islam certainly isn't really sympathizing with them. They're simply using them as a false flag cover. You see this all the time, where supposedly these groups are sympathetic to Islam. They couldn't care less about Islam, and Islam would certainly not tolerate the lesbians, the sodomites, the homosexuals, the transvestites. They exist, but they exist in hiding because they will be killed, except for where there's the culturally acceptable pedophile, like in Afghanistan, where they have the young boys they're shaking their butts, where it's an all-male party, and stuff like that. So they'll align with about 500 groups that have led anti-Trump, anti-Tesla, anti-Elon stuff, and will brand themselves as anti-war, but they're not anti-war. The socialists, Islamists, or the Whig Army are pro-China, pro-Hamas, pro-Islamic Republic of Iran, anti-American. Again, they're not really, well, some of them are. If they're communists, then they're pro-China because they've grown up in this nice, easy America, fat and happy. They've never been to a communist country. They've never really been around real communists, just their intellectual, college, coffeehouse friends. But they're using that as cover as well. Meanwhile, it says mycotoxins are the problem. Very few understand. No doctors have a clue. Used as a weapon currently are rampant in the big box stores and China, perhaps. Yeah, and they're long used as covert assassinations. Whether it is a, you can look at George Clooney's Ides of March, where the one guy's starting to tell the truth from the big pharma company, and they knock on the door, they tase him, they come in full sanitary gear, not to leave any DNA, and they inject a toxin under his toenail. So the autopsy is not going to see that, and it simulates a heart attack. And then they asphyxiate him without leaving any bruises. That's real sophisticated wet work assassination, not John Wick shooting up, everybody under neon signs and stuff like that. That's how it's elegantly done as well. But all these coalitions were coming together right after, when Trump addressed the nation, confirming the strikes on the Saturday before last. At 10:18, Socialist-linked Answer Coalition called for mass street protests at 2 p.m. Sunday. Trump talks at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. 10:18, Socialist-linked Answer Coalition calls for mass street protests 2 p.m. Sunday. And they're very organized. And some of these are proxies for foreign interests because they're getting paid by foreign. The Adam Waffer stuff out of Germany as well. And, they're for sale, like all these groups are for sale as well. And so what will this do this Friday if it happens? Well, this will take the attention off of Trump breaking his word and having another made-up Middle East war and regime change, which really may be to delegitimize him because they declared peace and it was broken, and also to split MAGA down the middle about this, which is a genius move as well. So this gives Trump a respite, although I don't think Trump is behind this. Again, I don't think he would ever be briefed on this. Then it wouldn't be covert. Again, if you want to see covert, watch Clear and Present Danger, the old Clear and Present Danger movie where they run the covert military operation with 7th Group, my old group down in Colombia. And the one CIA goes, does the president know about this? And the other CIA goes, he can't know about this. And and again, I also talked about this when I told you to watch Jack Strong, when Jack Strong was talking about, which is a true story, where he was saying, hey, the Soviets are going to sacrifice Poland for their war with America, and we got to let them know somehow. And his boss says, I can assign you to the embassy in Washington. His boss never says, I authorize you to go talk to the Americans when I assign you to the embassy, because then he's on the hook. And he just says, well, I could assign you. That's a covert mission statement being given without being given, so that they're off the hook, which is the way it really is done, not like on the Tom Cruise movies or the really smart intellectual original Mission Impossible, which was quite cerebral, not all kinds of fancy stunts. And like, well, the secretary will disavow all knowledge of your actions, and this tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds, right? And then it self-destructs. Well, let me tell you what would happen in real life with the tape. Because what you never see in real ops is shit goes wrong and sideways all the time. So what would happen is this tape is supposed to self-destruct in 5 seconds. This tape is supposed to self-destruct, and it would just repeat. And so then he would have the tape, and he'd be having to call, hey, I've got the tape. We'll destroy it. Well, I'm trying to, and I can't figure out. And of course, the phone call is being recorded then. And so that's how all that stuff really goes. So the way it is really done in real life is it is a covert mission statement without giving it away. So you can say, all I did was assign him to the desk in Washington. I don't know what else he did. I mean, if you remember in Jack Strong, they said, why'd you let yourself be recruited by the CIA? He goes, I wasn't recruited by the CIA. I recruited myself. I recruited the CIA. And they go, why'd you betray your country? He says, I never betrayed my country. I betrayed Soviets for my country. And that, is flawless the way that was done, and so much better than any Tom Cruise fake Mission Impossible stuff. But everybody wants to see, gasoline filled cars blow up and, stuff like that as well. But, the real deal is quiet. But anyway, Marco says there's reports of multiple drone attacks in Tehran on the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's headquarters. So who's expert in drone attacks? Ukraine. Who's Ukraine working with? Israel. Could be the Russians too, though, but the Russians are siding with the Iranians against Ukraine. So much more likely that those are Ukraine. Oh, disregard last. Okay, never mind. Not a good report. Disregard last. Okay, well, good. Self-correcting. That happens with me occasionally too. Don't worry about it at all. But again, that takes the sting out of Trump reversing himself, looking like a fool. If something happens, on Friday, then nobody's going to remember that. They're not going to remember that he just went into another regime change, made up Middle East war, and that Israel probably broke the truce, just like they broke the Gaza truce, just like they did another false flag, October 7th. And again, I opened with, but I'll end with this is the list of U.S. military and CIA coup and clandestine operations in foreign countries since World War II. Iran 46, China 46 to 49, Greece 47 to 49, Italy 48, Philippines 48 to 54, Korea 50 to 53, Iran 53, Vietnam 54, Guatemala 54, Lebanon 58, Panama 58, Haiti 59, Congo 60, Vietnam 60 to 64. Actually, it's longer than that. Indonesia 65, Congo 65, Dominican Republic 65, Laos 65 to 73. Ghana 66, Guatemala 66, 67, Cambodia 69, 75, Oman 70, Laos 1971 to 1973, Chile 1973, Cambodia 1975, Angola 76 to 92, Iran 1980, again 1981, Libya, El Salvador 81, 92, Nicaragua 81, 90, my stuff, Lebanon 82 to 84, Grenada 83, that's the Rangers, not the Marines like the movie shows. Honduras 83 to 89, that's me. Iran 84, that's me, although I wasn't in Iran Contra. Libya 86, Bolivia 86, that's me. Iran 87 to 88, again. Libya 89, Philippines 89, Panama 89, 1990, that's me. 1990, Iraq 1990, 1991. Iraq 91, 2003, that's me. Haiti 1991, Somalia 92, 94, Yugoslavia 92, 94, Bosnia 93, 95, Haiti 94, 96, Croatia 95, Zaire 96, 97, Liberia 97, Sudan 98, Afghanistan 98, Yugoslavia 99, Macedonia 2001, Afghanistan 2001, 2021, that's me, Venezuela, although I didn't go. Venezuela 2002, Iraq 2003, present, that's me. Haiti 2004, Ukraine 2004, 2013, Palestine 2006, 2007, 2009, present. Yemen, Syria 2005, 2009, Libya 2011. Not a complete list by any means. So, they're really busy running false flags, and you're going to tell me with that many counter revolutions happening all the time, somebody's not going to go, hey, we can do this here. We do it everywhere else every year. We can do it here. And they did, and that's what 2021 was. And but to reveal that would be to reveal the entire structure as well. Mach 1 Babe says 2C TV reported strikes on Iranian IRGC leaders did happen yesterday. Well, then that's obviously Israel breaking the truce again. And of course, that's again going to make Trump look bad, delegitimize Trump, and divide MAGA even more. So then this July 4th planned bioterror attack, which is really a psyop. Again, I want to emphasize it's not the bioterror attack you got to worry about. It's the psyop that goes with it. That's what is really happening. So I hope all that makes sense. And I would ask you to share this out widely so that hopefully this won't happen. I'll never know. If it doesn't happen, I'll never know if I was wrong or if I was right. I think I assess as your intelligence officer, high probability that they're planning on doing this because they always do it. This is what they always do, and their script's right there. But again, it's not going to work very well, and certainly hundreds of thousands of people aren't going to die. That's not the purpose. The purpose is fear porn, so they can have more tyranny, more control, and bring about more bio control as well, because biotech is struggling because it's coming out that they're all failing terribly. So I hope all that is making sense. And I have, and Bibi coming to the White House next week. That's interesting. Mach 1 Babe. Yes. Yeah, we'll see how that plays into all of this. But I will be back with you on Thursday. Again, patreon.com/Jeffrey Prather. Like, share, and subscribe. JeffreyPrather.locals.com. If you don't like what I'm saying, you want to cancel, then you got to cancel yourself. If you can't figure out how to do it, I'm happy to help you. Good luck and God bless. Remember, the enemy is as ancient as the war. Respect, never underestimate the enemy. The first rule of war is to know when you are in one, then know the battlefield. The terrain is always human. Discern via action, not words, friend or foe, sheep from wolves. Victory or defeat depends upon commitment. Faith defeats fakery. Infiltration is not immigration. Idealism is not religion. Religion is not God. Prayer talk is not kinetic. Yeshua flipped and whipped, tables and traitors. If not you, who? Neighbor up, study up, train up, show up, link up with Team America, and take it back.